Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's actually very easy. I don't know what the advisor goes to town on here. How much chumash did you do this morning?
First off, I came specifically late because I was slightly ahead of the shiur. So
Yeah.
I didn't do any chumash.
No?
No. And I left at after 7.
Oh yeah, right.
I'm using my time elsewhere.
All right. I tried to plow ahead this morning. Didn't.
People have asked too many questions. It was on purpose of that, you'll be sure.
All right, let's start. We are at the beginning of Perek Ches, Lamed Ches on base. A woman who was eating truma. In the middle of her eating truma, they came and said to her, Meis Baalech. She was a Yisrael. She was married to a Kohen. News reaches her, your husband died. O Gershech, your husband divorced you. And so to a slave, is eating truma. And they said to him, Meis Rabcho, your master died. Or Mecharchel Yisrael sold you to Yisrael. Or the son of Matana, or gave you as a gift. Or Salcha ben Chor made you a free man. The Chain Kohen she'ochel b'truma, so to a Kohen who was eating truma, v'noda lo, and in the middle of his eating truma, he became aware Shu ben Grusha ben Chalutza, became aware that his father had relations with a divorcee and conceived him thereby, relations with a woman who's a Chalutza and conceived him thereby. Reb Lezer mechayev keren v'chom, Yerushalmi says in all these cases, the individual who's eating the truma has to pay a keren and a chomesh. Now, the Mefarshim point out that it's in a case where the woman, for instance, should have suspected that her husband was old and decrepit and on the verge of death's door, or they had fought very, very bitterly and was on the verge of divorce, or the Eved knew that his master really was trying to unload him. Those are the cases in which Rabbi Yehoshua says, Rabbi Lezer says, you're chayav a keren v'chomesh. Why? Because you should have realized that you're in a precarious position. And since you should have realized it, and you nonetheless went ahead and did it, you are a shogeg. You're not a mason. That's why you bake keren v'chomesh. But you're not an onus either. You weren't completely blameless. Whereas Rabbi Yehoshua Poter, Yehoshua says you're completely blameless. Because Lamaisa had this woman come to base and said, Rabbi, am I allowed to eat truma now? They would have said, technically speaking, you are. Your husband is still alive. Your husband hasn't divorced you. Your master is still not sold you. So therefore, Rabbi Lezer, so Yehoshua says, you're going to be like an onus, and therefore you're exempt.
There's no scenario where the woman or the slave continue to eat after being told the news?
Oh, there will be. Don't worry. The later this evening. Later this evening, we're going to discuss that. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. We're going to divide its mission in 3. Nicha meis baalech. Second to last line, right? Nicha meis baalech. I understand the case where her husband drops dead in the middle. Gershech. If she's divorced, surely she's aware of it. In other words, a woman has to accept the bill of divorce, right? Just because you big guys are such big Talmidei Chachomim, you don't think one's going to answer. Okay? Rabbanan say, Commissioner Rishoina. This is going like not yet. The word is not going to answer yet. A few lines. Rabbanan says going like Commissioner Rishoina. In other words, like the original position, which is mentioned several times in Shas, which is literally means Mishnah Rishoina means the first way of learning, but here it's referring to the din Torah. The din of the Torah is a woman who's betrothed to a Kohen can eat truma already then, even though she's not yet fully married. Yeah. Mida right, so she can eat because she already got her ring, right? That's sufficient, even though there's no nisuin yet. They didn't sign under the chuppah. And such a girl, Aviyah Makabel guilty, if she's a minor, her father can still accept her get on her behalf. So that would be the scenario which our mission will work out, right? Because she's not getting the get directly. Who's getting the get? Her father's getting the get. So since her father's getting the get, so therefore she would be eating truma and unbeknownst to her, it's possible at that time her father began to get elsewhere.
Is she 12 yet?
No.
She be chayav Karen Clark.
When she grows up.
Even though the
Yeah.
Avera was...
You're right, she's a katana, that doesn't work. No, it has to be a nara.
So she's...
A nara, she's be 12 and 12 and a half. It would have to be a nara, that's
The
right.
father can still accept it.
Until she's 12 and a half, yeah. Okay? So says the Gemara, Vaviyah Mekabel Gilta, and her father accepts her get. Lamentation with Aleph. Rabbi Lezer Amar, Rafilu Tamar, Mishnah Achron, Kimi go like Mishnah Achron, and Mishnah Achron is what with the rebel, the Rabbanan, that a woman is not allowed to eat truma until she actually has nisuin, until she stands in the chuppah. And there are two reasons given the Bavli. One is because Shema Tachil Lavil Ima, maybe she'll give her the rest of her family to eat because she's at home. Or another reason given is because when he actually does have nisuin with her, maybe he'll find she has a mum, she has some terrible blemish, and retroactively the marriage will be null and void because of mekachtos, because of an improper impression. So they're even going like Mishnah Achroy that Arusa does not eat Lamites on base. Tipater explain it with the following case: Sha'amra loy. She said to him. Now here to him means really to a messenger, an agent. It should be hiskabel ligiti, not havei, but hiskabel. Accept from me my get. B'makom ploini. I want you to accept my get in New York. And it's understood that it takes 10 days to reach New York. Umatzasus, the husband or the shliach, doesn't matter, found a horse. Went and got the get after 5 days. So in that case, she wasn't aware. Says Gemara, no, I don't like that answer. Why could Rabbi Elazar say this answer? The Lord Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Eliezer, wouldn't Rabbi Eliezer like to be in agreement with Rabbi Eliezer? And the Tanin Tamon, we learned over there that in such a case where a woman sent out her agent to accept the get for her, regardless, Rabbi Eliezer, it's a miyaj, is not only to truma immediately. Because we say that even though she sent the agent to accept the get in New York, if the husband happens to find the agent in the outskirts of Chicago, then certainly the husband can give the get there. So therefore, in that case, she would be forbidden. She really would be amazed because she's not allowed to eat truma anymore the moment she appoints the shliach to accept her get. It's over. She's not allowed to eat afterwards. So says Mara, no. Rabbi Eliezer, this is Rabbi Eliezer concede. She said specifically, I only want the get to take effect in New York, not in Chicago, not in the outskirts of Chicago, not in Pittsburgh, not anywhere besides New York. So then she'll get l'makom ploin. She eats truma until the get reaches that place. So our Mishnah can be talking about a case like that, even according to Mishnah Achrona. In other words, a woman who got fully married, but she said, I only want my get to take effect when in New York, or whatever the case may be. So therefore it's possible that such a woman be caught in the middle, that she's eating truma at the same time. People come and say you got divorced while you're eating this truma because your shliach got to a place where he was entitled to accept the get. That's possible. However, Rabbi Hanani rejects this. Rabbi Hanani said, "Became a truma lo aveli giti l'mocham ploini." No. Once she says, "I want to get specifically to be given to be taken to so and so place." Nasa k'moshe amra la. And since what she's saying is lo yeget el asoryom etrimi will go only get after 10 days. Mashachla beheterochla. Then whatever she ate, she was allowed to eat because the get doesn't take effect. Now, what you're assuming the Mishnah, she ate after, let's say, 5 days. The get doesn't take effect until after 10 days. So what are you going to be b'chayiv her? She was entitled to eat truma at that point. So therefore, the Gemara is saying is that it really can't work out like Mishnah Achrona. Because like Mishnah Achrona, if you're going to set her up in a scenario where she was truly married, and she's supposed to accept the get, it's just that she sent an agent. So then in that case, until the agent reaches the destination which was intended, he can't accept the get, and therefore she would be allowed to eat the truma until such point.
Isn't that the way we pass them?
Yeah, we do pass the point. So therefore, our Mishnah can't be talking about that case. Our Mishnah is be talking specifically according to Mishnah, like Rabbanan said. Okay, that it's to Mishnah to that midaraisa she's allowed to eat while she's a nara, a nesua, and a narusa, and in that case she's not makabel her own get anyway. Okay, that's the end of that. So here, let's go to the next sugya. V'chein Kohen, you have that? V'chein Kohen, do you have a header? Probably don't have a header, right? Okay, I have a header. V'chein Kohen she'ocha v'chulei. Rabbi Chaga shol chavraya. That you have? Rabbi Chaga asked the chevra. Now this is a very interesting discussion here. Really interesting. Minay lo'echel b'shu shu potter. How do we know that somebody who eats the permission is potter? What do I mean by this? Says Rabbi Chana Chagai. Ma bein tzavar shu chulin v'nimtzo truma. If somebody thinks that the grain, what they're about to eat is chulin, and it turns out it's true. Yes, Baker and Chaimish, right? He's called Shogeg. Yet, Koi v'nimtzai. So a person that thought he's a Koi, you don't have this, right? A person thought he's a Koi v'nimtzai Yisrael shu potter. What do you have? What? Next case. No, so you do have it. Yeah. Again, I went from Memarav to Memarav base. Okay, maybe I didn't read it properly inside. Let's take a look at the bottom Memarav Aleph. Look at the bottom Memarav Aleph. Oh, Lamtes base. Sorry, but look at the top bottom Lamtes base. Ma ben Tzavar shu chulin v'nimtza truma. What's it between this person who thought it was chulin then turned out to be truma shu chayiv? The aspect of Chomish. Ma ben Tzavar shu kohen v'nimtza Yisrael shu potter. And the guy who thought he was a kohen found out that he's Yisrael, that he's exempt. Now we really haven't seen that later on, but we're going to see that a person thought he was a kohen for 10 hours Yisrael afterwards, he's exempt from Keren Chomish. So what's the difference? Why in one case does he have to pay Keren Chomish, in the other case he doesn't? Amrin Lay, they said to him, I'll tell you, now we're at Memo base. Right? Oh, because he has the asterisk at the beginning, I guess it's a typo. That's basic. Very interesting kind of thing, which is going to crop up a lot of times in the course of the evening. In order to become a apostle, if you're a Kohen, only basically paskin on you that you're a apostle. If Basin doesn't paskin you, rumors have no effect. Testimony not taken outside of court has no effect. Your only time you become ois kohen then subsequently is if the Basin paskins on you that you're not a Kohen.
So you can be married to a Christian until Basin?
No. Somebody not wearing himself pass with himself, whereas yichus is in doubt. Basin has to paskin whether the yichus is good or bad. That's not true by a case where you thought you were reading chulin and it turned out it's truma. Either in reality it's truma or it's not truma. No psak is necessary in that case, right? So therefore, what you say is like this. What? What? Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza?
That he's thinks he's trying, turns out to be that his father was
married to a divorcee. Yeah.
So it first comes out now, they have to search the records.
Right. It requires a psak, because he had a cheskas kohen.
He had a cheskas kohen. So what happens?
Yeah. Somebody goes to base and snitches on him. Ruvain, you think he's a real kohen? You got it. There's going to recur several times this evening. There is. You just didn't know that there was. The last Mishnah in Midos, though, says. Last Mishnah in Midos or last Mishnah in Talmud? I think it's last Mishnah in Midos says there's a special basin on Har Bayis, which dealt with the issue of who was a proper Kohen and who wasn't. And everybody before they did that vote had to go stand before this basin. And those who rendered pasul, they were loive shchorim and isativ shchorim, and they would go out and embarrassed, and those who were found kosher, they'd say, Asher Shabachar Bazaru Shalaron. So there was a whole procedure. Yeah, it's a plaka based it. So therefore he says like this. In this case, as Cohen was eating truma, then found out he was Yisrael. A cholol, really, to be more precise. So it's not his fault, right? Because he did them based on not your paskin on him. What's he have to worry about? Less based in rises, less based in sits, and determines this issue. There's nothing for him to be concerned about. So therefore, he was allowed to start eating, and he's on onus on his consumption. So therefore, he doesn't pay shogi, doesn't pay keren v'chomish. But the guy who knew he was going, but didn't know what he was eating was truma, who knew it was Yisrael, but didn't know what he was eating was truma, he thought it was chulin. So he's not contingent on a basin. He should have checked it out himself. Since he didn't check that out in himself, so therefore he doesn't pay keren v'chomish. Why is that? Therefore he does pay keren v'chomish. Why is that? Because he's a shogeg and not an onus. Am I making myself clear? The difference between shogeg and onus? I'm not making myself clear.
Kohen Chol is an onus?
A Kohen Chol is an onus, right? Still based in Paskins, it's as if he was coerced to eat it. Okay, because he has no way of knowing that he's a Kohen Apostle until based in actually Paskins on him. Okay? Whereas to know that and somebody who eats food stuff, and she should have checked out to see if it was actually Truma Chulin. Since he didn't, that's not an onus, it's only a shogeg. Okay, and therefore, by an onus, of course, you don't pay keren v'chomish. By a shogeg, you do pay keren v'chomish. Okay? Is that clear?
So onus is completely innocent.
Onus completely innocent.
Is innocent, but he should have checked.
Right, and therefore he pays keren v'chomish. And of course, worse than that would be mezid. Okay? We get off, we'd only pay keren and not chomish. Omer lo, so he said to them, Rabbi Chagai said to the Chevraya, Otzrichli, I got another question. Ma bein sover, are we still Memarav?
Yeah.
Ma bein sover shu chol v'nimtzer Shabbos, shu chayev. That's in any case. Somebody thinks it's a weekday.
Okay.
And does malacha. Turns out it's Shabbos, he's chayev. It's chayev korban, right? What's the tradition? Ma bein sover shu Pesach v'nimtzer Shlomi. Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos. Person goes down and checks a korban. He thinks it's a Pesach. It turns out it's a Shlomim. Shupater, there he doesn't have to bring a chatas for having transgressed Shabbos. Why not? Why in that case does he not have to bring it? Relay, so they said to him, Mishochet birshus, because there he had permission to shech. Why is that? Because it's permitted to shech the korban Pesach and Erev Yontif, which comes out on Shabbos. Right?
Do we have to do it on Erev Shabbos?
No, not Pesach. Pesach is Deichel Shabbos. So therefore it's called a Toeh B'dvar Mitzvah. He made a mistake and thought he was doing a mitzvah. And that you don't bring a korban. When somebody just forgot it was Shabbos in Malacha, it's not Toeh B'dvar Mitzvah. He doesn't think he's doing a mitzvah by doing Malacha. So therefore he has to be a korban. But here in this case, the guy said he was doing a mitzvah, and that's why he's exempt from being a korban. Okay? By the way, you can all go home now. We did 2 blot already. Says the Gemara. Oh no, they're all easy. Oh, see, there's no thesis written on the third one. Very short. Is there? Amalon. So he said, Amalon Otzrichli. I got another question. Somebody eats a piece of fat, thinking that it's permitted fat. It turns out to be forbidden fat, shuchai, that he has to be a korban. Ma'abit sover, in a case somebody thinks, now here's a big typo in the Gemara, shumutar v'nimtza aser. If somebody's an oimer mutar, is the case we have throughout Shas. Oimer mutar means you think it's mutar to do something. It turns out it's aser to do something. So in that case we say that halacha is shupater, that you don't bring a korban. Why, in case where you thought it was permissible fat, you do bring a korban. In case you thought it's mutter, there's no korban. The case of that would be a person knew it was chaylev, but he didn't know there was an issue of chaylev in the Torah. He was ignorant. He thought the Torah doesn't forbid cheeseburgers. So that's oimer mutter. If you're shogeg, you forgot that cheeseburgers are also and you ate it, or you thought it was artificial cheese and you ate it, so then you bring a korban. But if you didn't know cheeseburgers are also, then you don't bring a korban. Why is that? What's the difference? So says the Gemara, lo givune. They didn't respond to it. Amar alone. They said, subsequently they said, the Chabrai said, Nimlechun minon. Let's take counsel among ourselves. Nimlechun means take counsel minon among ourselves and discuss the issue. Tana, we learned, who brings the chatas? Oh, hoidoi love chataso. Vevi. He became aware that he sinned. He brings a korban. Hashami diyaso. Some of you were he to know that there was a chet involved here. In other words, he knew that this was he knew that there's an issue in the Torah of chelev. He didn't know that this was chelev. He thought it was shuman. So saying that Hashami diyaso, some of you were he to have known that this is chelev, he would have refrained. So such an individual, you should have maybe korban al shegagaso. He brings a korban if he did it unintentionally. You also so as opposed to omer mutter. Why does he bring a korban? Because he's somewhat more severe. Shafilu yodeh in a porish. Even if he had known it was chelev, he still would have eaten it. Because he doesn't know that there's an issue of chelev in the Torah. He doesn't know cheeseburgers are awesome. So therefore, this guy can't bring a korban. Why? Because only a shami diyaso. Somebody who worried to have known it was chelev would not have eaten it. He brings a korban. Somebody worried even to have known it was chelev, he would have eaten it. Because he's an ignoramus, such a person does not bring a korban. Special gzeres is a kosan. So that's what we're saying here. Why somebody who thought it was permitted fat turned out to be forbidden fat, he must bring a korban. Because had he known there was forbidden fat, he wouldn't have eaten it. As opposed to somebody who thinks that there's no prohibition of fat in the Torah at all. So therefore, even if he had known that it's forbidden fat, he still would have eaten it. Because he doesn't know chelev is osur. That's why we have to say that distinction, that in that case, since he would have eaten anyway, so for now that he happens to be, not have known, he still doesn't bring a korban in that case.
And we have the same scenario on Shabbos as well.
Right.
He didn't know it was also to do it on Shabbos, or he forgot that it was Shabbos.
Right. We're going to have the same scenario on Shabbos as well. That's correct.
So is it the same thing also?
Yeah, this is consistent, completely consistent. Shalom Diyasa is a basic principle of Bali as well. Yotazeh Shafila Yodea ain't a porridge. Suppose this guy, even were you to know us, he still would not have refrained from eating it. All Rabbi Yossi Gabon. Rabbi Yossi was not in the room when they were having discussion. Now he came in. V'ram alone, he said to them, Lam alarm Misule, why didn't you answer Rabbi Chagai with this puzzle? Why would have refrained that he would know brings a korban. They said, Hu Kashiase, Rabbi Chagai asked the question, and why you have the room, Hu Kaimei, he sustained it, meaning he answered it by bringing down exactly the story you just mentioned. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. Hayome. See the Hayome?
Second asterisk.
Second asterisk? Or third? What? Okay, whatever it is. Is it a zigzag somewhere there? Okay, Hayome to Makir Gamizbech. A Kohen is standing and sacrificing atop the Mizbeach. Lousy timing. They told him his mother was a divorcee or had undergone chalitza. I bless him. He sacrificed the Mizbeach. Pesulit are all puzzle. Rishua machshir. Rishua says it's all kosher. Notice Baal Mum. If it turns out that he is a Baal Mum, then everybody agrees Avodas Psula doesn't work even. It passes his avodah even retroactively. It's no good, right? His avodah is unacceptable. Okay, so, how do we understand all these things? Let's go back to the Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Do you have Rabbi Yochanan? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. This is one of the three drushes are Masechta Shemu Chuvar which are clear in the Torah. It says that when you come, you should come El HaKohen Asher Yeba Yom Yimayim. You come to a Kohen who's alive in your day. That's what kind of statement is that? It's that. The Chiyesh Kohen Achshav Eino Kohen Lachar Zman. Is there a Kohen now who's not going to become a Kohen later on? It says, yeah. There is such a person. Who's such a person? Somebody who's standing and sacrificing his behalf. And it turned out he's ben grusha ben chalutza. So we say Shabbodaso Ksheira. Since it says that he's called a Kohen. What?
He's kosher because of the
Right, because the Kohen B'Yomim, because once a Kohen, even though later on he's not a Kohen, for here we see one can be a Kohen for a limited time. Now, you can't, doesn't mean you can go and accept upon yourself the Kohen and say, okay, God, I want to be a Kohen for the next 10 days. It doesn't work that way. But if somebody thought he was a Kohen, so then he is a Kohen until it's a Chazakash. But the Torah here is sanctioning that Chazaka, saying that it works. Okay? It won't work. Right. That's right. No Chazaka, because that's not a halachic issue, that's a reality issue. Okay? Rav Amar, another interpretation, another pasuk teaches the same thing. Barech Hashem Chelo. God bless his strength, but we dash it Chalalo. And the handiwork of his hand be fine acceptable. Kol Shumizaro Shel Levi. Anybody who's from the children of Levi, Avodasuk Sher is Avodas kosher, even if he's a cholo, right? Even if he's a person who's damaged, because of Borech Hashem Chelo, Hashem blessed the chalol. Okay, it says the Gemara. I don't know if you have these words. Ma benehon. Do you have those words? You have al daite, right? What's in the ma benehon means what's in afkamina. Al daite the Rav, according to Rav, who said that the svara is kohen asher b'yomim ma'im. No, it says as far as Baruch Hashem Chelo. So vad kohen amakrit. Only the person who's supposed to be obeyed that day. The Moshe Rabbeinu David Hashem said, if a Kohen comes in on the right day of his Beis Av, right, which is twice a year, because there were 24 Mishmaros, each of which was divided into 7 Batei, right? So therefore, your Mishmar comes in approximately twice a year, right? So a little bit more frequently, but it's around twice a year. So they come in. The group. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's only the Kohen who should be sacrificing that day who gets the exemption. Because Baruch Hashem Chelo, Upoya Dav Yitzeh, we're Mevarech Chalo, whose turn it is to work. If it's his turn today to work, we're Mevarech him. And we let the Lavaita go. I'll die to Rabbi Yochanan, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, learn out from the pasuk of Uvasakar Sheva Yomi Mahem. It doesn't matter if it's his day to work. Any Kohen could be a Kohen for half the time and then subsequently not a Kohen. So therefore, his work is acceptable, his avodah is acceptable, even if it's not the right day. He came around the wrong day and did avodah. Okay? I'll die to Rav, similar nafkimina. According to Rav, learn from Baruch Hashem Chelo. Uvad Koche Mikdash. It only works in Koche Beis HaMikdash. Because it says, Upol Yadav. What's Pol Yadav? Avoid in the Beis HaMikdash. Anything can have the Beis HaMikdash. How dieted Rabbi Yochanan, how dieted the Rav. According to the logic of Rav, however, Ubi Uvad B'Shas Mikdash. It could be anywhere. But it has to be specifically during the time when the Beis HaMikdash existed. Meaning, according to Rav, who said he's a Kohen till today. And then it's Kohen after today, so it even works outside Beis HaMikdash. There's to be truma or other facets of being Kohen which occur outside the Beis HaMikdash, because it's a din in status. It's not a din in the avodah is doing, not a din in the pu'ula. It's a din in the payel. The person is doing the work, right? So therefore, we say that this guy, according to Rabbi Yochanan, this guy is kosher. Till today's kosher, from today's apostle. So it makes no difference if he's the one who's supposed to do the avodah today. If he's inside Beis HaMikdash or eating truma, the principles all apply. According to that's if it's going on the person who does the work on the poel. But if it goes on the pu'ula, on the activity, so what's like Rav said, Baruch Hashem Chilo Fola Yodav Tirtzeh. What's Paul Yodav? Only when he's working in the Beis HaMikdash. And only when it's his right time to work in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Is that clear?
So if it's not his right time, I don't...
So then his avodah is not acceptable.
But if he's...
Baruch Hashem, Kohen Asher Yom Meim or Baruch Hashem Chelo doesn't upgrade his avodah.
Yeah, but he's been found puzzle.
Yeah.
So, if he's in the base of Mikdash, then up until the time he was puzzled, up until that time that was found puzzled, that his avodah is accepted.
Depends. Could be only on the day of his mishmar. That's what we're saying. Yeah, it's part of our clear here. Rabbi Yirmiyah boy. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, according to opinion, would say that he's kosher. Aflin is shard. For in case is true about all other matters as well, such as Mikabel. If the Kohen who then turns out to be a cholol received the blood, and then he come out, he's a cholol. V'achar sorry, can somebody else now sprinkle the blood which the cholol drew? Kometz. The cholol did a kmitza on a mincha. V'achar maktir, can somebody else now do the aktorah? Top of mem malef from Ralph. Mazeh. If he shech the paradum and starts sprinkling the blood towards Yerushalayim, v'achas seirev, can somebody else come and burn the paraduma? Rabbi Yaakov Avda b'shem Rabbi Yitzchak. He said, "Min madatani asuso kechatos gezula." They made this kohen like a stolen chatos. The halacha is, of course, a stolen chatos. If you know the money was stolen, if you know the animal was stolen, you're not allowed to be marked in the Beis Hamikdash. But what it was not known to the Kohanim, unbeknownst to them, they were sacrificing a stolen chatos. So the halacha is, shelo no del rab, as long as the masses don't know that it's stolen, she mechaperes, it's mechaper. As long as the masses don't know it's stolen, then it's mechaper is a chatos. So we see that the parameters are not so rigid. Okay, we see that as long as you don't know what he is, it's like over there you don't know exactly what the animal is, it's okay. So so this teaches us that since we go around with blinders, so to speak, unless we can prove that there's something wrong, we don't assume there's something wrong. So we say that he's if the Kohen who's able to be a chol is mekabel, and another person is zorek, that's good. That's sufficient for that by the Beis Hamikdash. Kohen, so one person did the kmitza, another person could do k'tak. I don't know if you have this. Mazev achar soref. He can sprinkle the blood of the paraduma opposite Yerushalayim, then somebody else burn the paraduma. Okay, but it's that's what it should be. Okay, because obviously in the order chronologically, first you do the hazon, and then you do the shreifa. Rabbi Akiva Yaakov Araz. This is the coolest question. Coolest question, perhaps, since we started learning Yerushalmi. Rabbi Isai, how does a Rotzeach go back? If he's Rotzeach B'Shogi, how does he live as Eir Miklat? Leave. When needs to have author? What if there was a Koy and the Koy? No, Yovel doesn't help for a Rotzeach B'Shogi. No, it's only for Avodim. I think, pretty sure. Any idea? Then what? Oh, no, not like him. Okay, fine. Oh, for a minute I thought he was saying like you.
He's always hoping that the...
No, Yovel. You're Kohen Gadol dies. Not Yovel. Okay, so now... So it's a Kohen... What happens if instead of the Kohen Gadol kicking the proverbial bucket, the Kohen Gadol standing in the Beis Hamikdash in Avodah, and they say, the Kohen Gadol, you're really a cholo. What happens to the Rotzech and the Eir Miklat? Does he get out then, because it's tantamount to a death of the Kohen Gadol? Or does he stay in prison because there was no Kohen Gadol? That's the Gemara's question. You don't like it, huh?
No, it's not.
Yeah. What? Gemara's going to end up that it is.
Is it really?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not the president.
Yeah, well,
he's impeached or resigned. There's
So that's what we're talking about here.
More involved than the person.
Okay. So again, let's see it right. Yeah, but this is not going to say because it turned out retroactively that he was the son of a divorcee, the son of a chalutza, so one could make the case it's retroactive. Okay, Rabbi Yaakov Razati v'shem Rabbi Yitzchak Shol. The guy was the Kohen goes standing on makrin his back. But no, Ben Grusha turns out that he's the son of a divorcee. What's his status? Kamishu Mace, as if he dropped dead. On the road, go back home. Oh, Kamisha Nigmardina Blow Kohen goes. If it's much worse for the murderer, because if it was a murderer who was condemned to sit in the Mikla when there was no Kohen Gadol in office. And Lochas said such a murderer can never go out. He has to stay in the Miklat forever and ever. Right? And retroactively, there was no Kohen Gadol at the time he committed the sin, and therefore he never gets out. So Nishmini Minato. Let's hear from here. And let's extrapolate from the Kahal case. So long Maisa is also brought down the Bavli. Maisa b'Megura shel diskus. There's a certain Maisa with the reservoir of water used as a mikvah, which belonged to a person named Diskus in Yavne. Shreisa Emeres B'Cheska Shleim was assumed that it was a whole mikvah, W-H-O-L-E. V'nim Dedes, and then it was measured. V'nim Tzas Chaser, and lo and behold, it was lacking some measure to bring it up to 40 saw. Rabbi Tarfon said anybody who went to the mikvah and any vessels which are put in that mikvah are tahor. I said one time it has a chazaka that it was good. Right? We had an assumption it was good. Rabbi Akiva says it. Why? I'm not tired for Rabbi Tarfon said, why do you say such a thing? The mikvah is assumed to be tar. You could continue to consider the mikvah tar actually until the last possible point when it could have become emptier than necessary. Okay, that's called the chazaka, extending the last reality forward as much as possible. Rabbi Akiva said, on the contrary, the guy who went to the mikvah, he was tummy before he went to the mikvah. So what's his chazaka that he's tummy? So you have to prove that the mikvah is a good mikvah in order to get him out of the cheskas tuma. Rabbi Tarfon said, well, what is this analogous to? It's analogous to Kohen standing on being makriv on his mizbeach. And he turns out that he's a ben grusha ben chalutza. Shavodaso ksheras avodas kosher. So to here, let's say the mikvah is tar, even though it now seems to be lacking. But over there, let's say the mikvah is good. Akiva said, no. What is this analogous to? This case of mikveh. The Kohen Omeid. The Omeid Umakri. Person standing and sacrificing God Mizbeach. On top of Mizbeach. He's there. He's sacrificing. We notice Shabbat then emphasizes the Baal Mum. He's got a blemish. Shavadasa Psula Zavoidas Pasul. So Kiva's Papa is proving that in fact it's the case. The question is how to look at it. If you look at it as Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, if you look at the mikveh as being similar to Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, then it's tummy at the last possible moment. Because just like Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, you push off the last possible moment, it's Torah. It's a Torah at the last possible moment. So Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, you push off to the last possible minute, because it requires a psak based it. So it's here, the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza is the last possible minute. And before that is considered Kohen kosher. And therefore, when he drops dead, all the murderers go free. Now he drops dead. When he proves it's possible, all the murderers go free. But if you're going to say that what they found about him is a Baal Mum, so Baal Mum is retroactive. Right?
But the possible mikveh is not retroactive. Up to a certain point, we know it was being kosher. It's just somewhere along the line, we don't know where.
Yeah, but we're not taking that chazaka into account anyway. According to Rabbi Akiva, we don't take the chazaka into account. Right? Well, now I lost my train of thought. Are we trying now to explain Rabbi Tarfon? No, we are trying to explain Rabbi Akiva. Right? According to Rabbi Akiva, it's a Baal Mum. Right, say that the fine guy, the Kohen Gadol Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza makes like a Baal Mum. So if the Rotzeach should never go back.
So how can Rabbi Akiva apply this case to the mikvah? Because the mikvah we know was kosher when
He says what was left over, in other words, the land.
As opposed to.
As opposed to the Kohen who was found to have a gam, so it's retroactive for the time he was born. The time he became bar mitzvah, became eligible for the Vilna.
Right. The Gemara is not saying that, obviously. The Gemara is saying that.
Thus, if he sells the property, if the first guy sells the property, nothing remains of it for the second.
Well, let's see other one else. Maybe it'll help. Tarba said, what's going on here? Ben Grusha. I say the case is like Ben Grusha. In other words, that it's not. You push it off as far as possible. It's like Ben Grusha Ben Lutza until based in Paskin, it's still considered to be kosher. So to here until they Paskin, it's still considered to be okay. The mikvah is still considered to be okay. You're saying it's like a Balmum, just like Balmum. Passes retroactively, so the mikvah is passed retroactively. Let's see what it's really akin to. Im leben grusha, im medem mi ben grusha. If it's akin to ben grusha, it's learned from the case of ben grusha. V'im lebamum, who die in lebamum, who die. It's akin to the case of bamum. Nil medem mi bamum. Let's serve for bamum. Rabbi Akiva said, mikveh pisula begufo. By a mikveh, the psul is in the object itself. Ubamum psula begufo. By a bamum, the psul is in the person himself. Ben Grusha, you can't bring a rifle in Ben Grusha. Where's the psul in Ben Grusha? In the yichus, in the parents, not in the kid himself. Right, exactly. It's psul is in others, because of others. Furthermore, mikveh psul b'yochid. By a mikveh, it takes one to pass. It's one person drawing water out of the mikveh makes it possible. By a balmum, psul b'yochid. Just one person making or getting a blemish is possible. However, it's no right to Ben Grusha, Shepisula bebeistin, because Ben Grusha is when does it become possible? Only a beistin, not an individual cannot declare himself a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Only beistin can declare it based on the evidence. Okay.
And if you don't need beistin,
this is possible, like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said to Rabbi Akiva, "Haparish mimcha." Anybody that separates from you can perish michayev if he's separating from his own life. Rabbi Yisrael says, "Zois hameres." This is the exchange that Rabbi Akiva teaches us. Person saying mizbech, the no, there should ben grusha ben chalutza. It turns out he's ben grusha ben chalutza. So then Rabbi Akiva agrees that it's from here on in. And therefore, says the Gemara, "Shavodaso kshera actually pasal beistin." The zavoda remains kosher until he's pasal and beistin. And therefore, says the Kavanoki, when he's rendered pasal, it's like dropping dead. Why is it like dropping dead? Because it's not a reis l'mafreya. A ba'amum is a reis l'mafreya. That means you can't release the murderers. But since this is subsequent, and therefore the murderers are released. Now this is a very difficult concept. The Kavanoki asked the question which I know you were really asking before, which is, how does the basin just is it's like the FBI, right? They're doing detective work, but either he was a Ben Grusha Chalutza, but it wasn't a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, right? So the reality shouldn't be determined by Din. They should only be the inquiry board to see what reality is. But I can say they determine reality that from till now the reality was that he was a Kohen, and from here on in reality it's not a Kohen. How can you say such a thing which is bothering you, right?
Well, it wasn't, but that's a good point. It's like the Truth Squad in South Africa.
Right, the Truth Squad. Yeah, it's like this Winnie Mandela, right? She has a new middle name. I forget. It was some crazy. It's a good thing this tape is not going to South Africa. Otherwise, you'd end up with a necklace around your neck. It's not a pleasant one. In any event, so the shaila is, so the truth is he doesn't have a good answer. He has a cop-out answer. Says this would be one of the cases where Mosar Nakosul l'Chachamim. The Torah gave it over to Chachamim to decide when the person becomes apostle or not, based on the psaka basis. So be as it may, that teaches us that it's similar to death, and therefore it's the murderer goes free when he's proved to be a ben grushim ben chalutza. Supposed to be when he's proved to be a baal mum, which case that condemns the murderer to sin the miklat forever, because then he really had no kohen gadol on which to go, right? Hadamra safek tamei. Okay, so this tells us that's the case. Safek tamei. I forgot how to read this. Wait.
This is me over by sin over but he's the Russian, who's a crafty Russian. That's one who gives advice. The Korban Chassid, Shimon Gamliel.
So it's really the boy mainly.
So the more asks the question. Wait, so that's the case. We should extrapolate from this that any suffix tamei, suffix ba'mum is the suffix whether it's tamei when he's doing avoda, suffix ba'mum is doing avoda she'er. Let's say there too is avoda, it's kosher. Tamei leben grusha ben chalutza. There is a parallel drawn between that and ben grusha ben chalutza. Says the Gemara, no. Mikvah lav safeku. By a mikvah, it's a suffix, and nonetheless we say that it's tamei retroactively as long as you can possibly make it. So too we say by mum and by tuma that we make the kohen who had a suffix mum or a kohen who perhaps is tamei. We give the status of the mum or the tuma retroactively as far as possible, just like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Chanina said, Zoyso Meres, this teaches us Pisul Mishpacha Tzarech Beistim. And the only time, only Pisul Mishpacha requires Beistim. That's the only Pisul Mishpacha is from here on in and not retroactively. And that's why that's the only one which is like death. As opposed to Tuma, as we're not sure if it's Tummy did the Avodah or not. As opposed to the case of Mum, where the Kohen, not sure the Kohen had a Mum or not. In those cases, since the question of reality, it works retroactively, even as well, and apostles the Kohen retroactively, and therefore, by the case of the mikvah, that is the analogous case for apostles in the mikvah retroactively. Okay?
Right, and the comes from the flower is actually going to be based upon a sock basin versus
right. Sock basin is tantamount to a change. Suppose anything else is just a revelation. Okay? So now we'll go back to the Mishnah. We already did 3 blood, right? Okay? Everybody see that? Mr. Zuber, you have it?
In other words, you're counseling her.
in the Mishnah.
Right?
I'm not sure.
It says, me to be right. So ask the question.
All these guys, now the truth of the Gemara is going to say it's really talking about just about an Eved whose master was about to sell him, an Isha whose husband is about to die or divorce her. But to me, it seems like it's about all of the cases mentioned previously. The Truma is already in their mouth. Rabbi Lezmer Yivlu, they should swallow. Rishomer Yiflu too, they should spit it out. Amrulo need mesa v'nit mesa truma. What if they said to him, "You're tamei and the truma you're eating is tamei as well"? Double whammy. You're tamei and truma eating is tamei. Rabbi Lezmer Yivlu says you swallow it. Rabbi Rishomer Yiflu, you should spit it out. Tamei Aisa. This is where you're tamei right now, or the truma is tamei right now. What about they tell him you were tamei before you started eating? The truma is also, or the truma was also tamei before you started eating. Oh no, that's tevel. So it was supposed to be beforehand, or it turns out it wasn't truma. It turns out it's tevel, right? It's non-tight. Or my spiritual need of truma, so my spiritual which the truma is not taken, which is also a form of tevel. My and my sheni nektish which are out to shleim and weren't redeemed. Oh, shatam tam pish pish l'tochbib. All these cases are when, if while you're eating the truma, you didn't experience any tuma. All of a sudden you feel a pish pish in your mouth. Pish pish, he says here, is bed bug baglit. Beis dalit dash beis gimel. Bed bug. Okay. So if you place a bedrock, I told you that in Israel we used to have these things, the shalmains to fall from the roof at night. So we call them tzanchanim, the paratroopers. So in any event, I raise the e-float, in that case you spit it out. Even though it's not tummy, and even though it's the psul happened while you're eating, makes the truma so vile that you don't have to eat it. We don't make you continue eating. Okay? Says Gemara. Let's go back to Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ma pligin." When do they have a machlokas be'evid v'isha? Only by an evan or isha. Then in that case, they have machlokas where they spit it out or swallow it. Abu Shard for him. Oh, Mr. Sugan, they're still in the place. Still in my office.
The second one takes the whole thing. From the latter one. The first one takes the whole thing. The whole thing.
I'm not pleading be'evid isha. Abu Shard for him after Lezer mother. But anything else, even Rabbi Lezer concedes that you spit it out. Why? Because by an evan or isha, they were more entitled to rely on the assumption that there were still wives or slaves. But by anybody else, they have no we don't give them that leniency. Okay, so here Rabbi Lezer agrees that everybody else spits it out, right? Anybody else is a case of a person who was tummy. I found out he's tummy. He has to spit it out. Okay. No, I take that back. It's a mistake. No, scratch that, because that's the case later in our Mishnah, later in the Mishnah which we just read, where it actually says that that's part of the machlokas. The case of say tell you about is evident isha as opposed to sometimes ben grusha ben chalutza. So if I was Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, you would have to spit it out immediately.
I don't think we're going to get it.
I'm not happy with what I'm saying. Oh! Yeah, the Kabnaki explains. It says Rabbi Lezer holds, according to this Gemara, Rabbi Lezer holds a Psul B'Shpacha, Apostles L'Mafreya. It's an Evan and Isha, it's not a retroactive thing, because they were married a minute ago. Or they were slaves a minute ago, right? So therefore, Rabbi Lezer holds in that case you get to swallow it, because when you're starting, you ate it b'derech heter. But if a person's found to Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, not like the previous Mishnah held also by Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, it's from here on in. So then he would be allowed to continue eating. But Rabbi Lezer holds that it works retroactively, and therefore you're not allowed to continue eating. Now, everybody would agree, a more partial case would be Ba'amum. Because Ba'amum, we all agree, it's retroactive, not just from here on in. Okay? Amar Shua Bar Yitzchak Masisa Amar Kenig Sisra Mishnah. Oh no, that should tevel Ma'aser Rishon don't need l'tshuma. So if it's anything else, such as the tevel reading, or Ma'aser Rishon which was not properly tithed, or Ma'aser Shem Vektish which are not shaloni, which are not redeemed, on all these cases it says you got to spit it out. For later Rabbi Lezer polyg, Rabbi Lezer doesn't argue. So Rabbi Lezer does not argue across the board. So my time with the Rabbi Lezer, what's the reason Rabbi Lezer, by a woman, by a spouse, or by a slave that you get to continue eating? Because you started better. Tanya, we learn that's one svara. However, Rabbi Amran said, that's not the reason. Not because he started when it's mutter. Ella, rather, Rabbi Lezer holds something which is chewed up is as if it's swallowed. So therefore the additional act of swallowing is it's no greater avera. That's why you're allowed to continue, which is very nice. Svara. Says, yeah, nice svara, but it caused me all sorts of difficulties for all of Shas. So that's the case. After Shabbos came. This is a case, very strange case. So the case like this, we know it's a sheet of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri we already had a few blot ago, which is that if you cook on Shabbos, it's also to you forever. It's like eternal mukta, right? So what about if you started chewing on it? Can you continue and finish eating it? Because once you chewed it, it's as if it's you ate it. Or a better case, more prevalent, after Pesach came, started chewing chometz. Can you finish it? They can say in the Sparah of Lezer that loes kibolea, then once you chew it as if you swallowed it, so l'chorah it should be the same thing. Abi Yom Kippurim, if you start chewing something Yom Kippur, you should be allowed to swallow it.
If you start chewing, you have to make the bracha. So, what do you say?
Yeah, according to this, you should be allowed to continue. I mean, it's bad, but you should be allowed to continue, right? After Nazir, so to a Nazir cane, if he starts chewing grapes, you should be allowed to continue. After Nevedos cane, you start getting shits biting that Big Mac. What can you do? When you start chewing on it, finish it. After Nevedos cane, after Travis cane, after Shkotzim cane, after Ramosim cane, and the word doesn't answer. In other words, if that's the case, so Tachlit should be Bahanius in the Torah. Rav Chia Barva, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, name Rabbi Yochanan said, "Hashoichet behemo." This is totally off on a tangent, completely off on a tangent. Hashoichet behemo shechted an animal. What's about shechted? You find worms in the animal. Also, you're not allowed to eat the worms, not for hygienic reasons. My time, why? Behemo behemo tochel. It says you find an animal, another animal, such as a fetus inside a larger animal, so you're allowed to eat. However, below shekets, behemo tochel, you can't eat a worm which is inside other animals. There's because Rabbi Yerushalmi said, Rabbi Yerushalmi said, Rabbi Yisha asked the kasha, what's it between this case and the case of the little bugs which are in lentils, the little gnats which are in klesin, and the toloim, the little worms which are in dates, which grows and in figs. There we say that as long as the bug is inside the fruit, you're allowed to take a bite out of the fruit and not to be concerned about the bug. So why over here is the difference? Why by the wine do you have to be concerned? So it says the Gemara, not by the wine, sorry. By the animal. By the animal which had a worm in it. Why do you have to be concerned? Say the worm in the animal, just like the worm in the vegetable, just like the worm in the vegetable is mutter, so too the worm in the animal should be mutter. This is more a very beautiful svara. Where you have an apple, let's take a case of a worm in an apple. The worm and an apple are not two separate things. Why? Because the apple doesn't have its own life force. So as long as the worm doesn't come out of the apple, you can take a bite out of the apple, and even if you eat the worm, it's not geferlich. Because it didn't come out to the airspace of the world. And therefore it's not separate. But by a worm inside an animal, so there are two separate lives there. And the two separate lives is what creates the lack of bittul, and what makes you chayav to return the that's returned, but not to eat the shekets. I'll start off the sentence. So I start off the sentence confusing. Let me just repeat it again. By an apple, which has a worm in it, the worm is not a contradiction to the apple, because it's not two separate life forces. So if the worm is batel to the apple, you can eat the apple and eat the worm as well. But a worm cannot be batel to an animal. A worm cannot be batel to a cow, because there are two separate life forces there. So by definition, the existence of two separate life forces separates the worm inherently from the animal. And even if you can eat the animal, you cannot eat the worm. What do you want to ask?
Well, the worm is living off the animal.
That's true, but only parasitically. Okay, but it's the two separate lives. You're not allowed to eat the parasites which ride the whales. That doesn't help. Parasitical nature does not help. Okay, so as a separate life force, it doesn't do any good. Okay. Now we're going to top a little bit of topic, just the marasayin. If you have fish brine with fat in it, which also has fish blood in it, right? This is a delicacy in the old days. Before the blood settles shari, you're allowed to drink the blood because it's fish blood. It's only it's only also because of marasayin. So before the blood settles, you can have a drink of this oil, even though it has blood in it. Once the blood settles, it literally clears also. That's forbidden because you're not allowed to trade with it. You're not allowed to eat it because of marasayin. Tani, we learned, if you find blood on your loaf of bread, Goro, you remove the blood, v'ochlo, then you can eat the loaf. However, if you can't eat the blood. What's the exception? If while you're chewing, blood comes out from between your gums, then you're allowed to swallow that blood. You're allowed to eat it, and you don't have to worry about it again because there's no marasai in that case, because it's already within you, right? Yeah? Oh, okay, phone rang. The blood, if blood is on the bread separate, you're not allowed to eat a piece of bread. What? No, now human blood. Change gears. Fish blood is also marasai when it settles in the cup. Now a separate thing. Human blood. If it's distinct, if it's on a piece of bread, you can't eat the piece of bread. If you're chewing on something and your poor gums and start bleeding, you can continue eating and suck in the blood. There's only dam shapar, just similar. Why are all these cases written down? Because they're similar in one respect. Just like the insect leaving an apple makes the insect different, makes the insect also. Right? If the worm actually exits of the apple, use a wormhole to get out of the apple, it becomes a separate entity. If the fish blood sinks to the bottom of the cup, it becomes a separate entity. If the blood is not in your mouth but rather on the bread, it becomes a separate entity. And then in all these cases, some of them are usher midin, some of them are also because of marasai, but they're all usher. Tanya, we learned. Home stretch. I could just try and get to the next Mishnah. Hagizin. Not very far, right? Hagizin. These are types of worms. Gizin, basbuzin, zizin. Would you say that also when they're still in the fruit? They got to be creepy crawly things in order to be usher. And in the fruit, they're not considered to be creepy crawly. Why? Because they have to be distinct. They have to be they themselves. I guess not because they creepy crawly. That's not the emphasis. But they have to be distinct, repugnant thing unto themselves. Below is unchained, not when they're in the fruit. What about if that's the case? If they came out, the worm poked out, it's ground worm day. The worm poked out his head and then went back into the apple. Do I say the worm continues to be mutter? No. They came and went back in again. No, it already established independence. They came out and went back, you're not allowed to eat it. Rav Chia Barashi B'Shem Rav said, they just came out on the rim of the food. It's the worm still in the apple, but it just came out a little bit. You're not allowed to eat it already. Rabbi Abba Bar Rav Huna B'Shem Yochanan said, if I reject an animal, and you find it a pig, you're allowed to eat it. The musyoina, if you find them, do you have the musyoina? What do you have? Oh, what a big blunder. Either it's a big blunder, it's a major difference. He says the moose yona osir b'achila, not Rabbi Yona. The form of a dove is also to eat. Why the dichotomy between the form of a pig and the form of a bird? My timer, why? Behema bivhema tochelu. If you find an animal in the animal, you can eat it. La'of bivhema tochelu. Not a bird in an animal. So therefore, it must be Dmus Yona. If you find something which looks like a pig inside a cow, it's mutter. Something which looks like a pigeon inside a cow, even though pigeons are kosher, you can't eat it because it's an open vehicle. And of course, like I said previously, if you find insects, worms in a cow, you can't eat them either.
Of course, the drasha doesn't make any sense because you're not
factually.
Because you're not finding an oven, you're finding a demus.
Yeah, okay. It's like perhaps even like Harchaka Doraitza. The Torah itself wanted to draw a distinction. But you're right, it's a tenuous drasha. Oshatan tam pishpish. Loso bedbug, right? Today's a bedbug while you're eating. Loso davar pishpish, not just a bedbug. Anything which a person finds repugnant, right? Repugnant. That eating that together with the truma would be just as bad as spitting out the truma. So therefore you might as well just spit it out. don't continue eating it because it would be so repugnant and repulsive to you. Okay, I guess we'll stop here for this evening.